YouTube history was made a few days ago on October 31st, 2022 when Jacksepticye livestreamed a project that he had been working on for over 6 months. First having been announced in May of the same year, this masterpiece is none other than the Iris project. As with any other project close to Sean's heart, the details of this one had been kept under lock and key up until the release, so there wasn't much for his fans to go off of when he had first made the initial announcement. That doesn't mean we had been completely left in the dark though. Today, I'd like to discuss everything related to the Iris project. From the inception, history, production, all the way to the lore. Join me as we dissect the return of Antisepticye. While not obvious to all at the time, in hindsight the entire livestream, especially the interrogation styled sections, all very clearly connect back to Sean's alter ego, Chase Brody, and more importantly, his own short that had been released near the end of 2019, simply titled Chase. Don't know what I'm talking about? Well, let me give you a rundown. Like what I discussed in my previous video on the topic of Markiplier, both him and Sean have come to create a fan base not only around themselves, but also around fictional characters and personas of their own making, all played by them. Chase Brody is no different. In the documented lore of Jacksepticye's channel, he and Antisepticye have risen to fame as the two most popular egos. Antisepticye was the firstborn. As the name suggests, he is the complete antithesis to Sean and how he sees himself on YouTube. In fact, Antisepticye is just a straight up demon whose backstory, while not fully explored yet, is all based around the idea that his sole purpose is to take over the channel and get rid of his inferior counterpart so that he can have full control. In a lot of ways, Anti had accomplished his goals. On numerous occasions, we've seen him hijack Jacksepticye and mess with his life to the extent of disastrous consequences. The same can be said for Sean's other, lesser known yet equally beloved alter egos. However, a wrench was thrown onto Anti's path when he realized Chase was not so easily vulnerable like the rest. The first we see of Chase is as a blogger who portrayed a level of excitement and joy like no other ego. Mayhaps his spirits were the reason that Anti had a hard time taking control, but this wouldn't stop him from just letting the man be. From what we know by watching the ending skits of Sean's videos, Anti's act of rebellion consisted of kidnapping Chase's children, whom he had already lost custody over, and murdering them.
Where are they? What do you want from me?
This, of course, threw Chase into a downward spiral, and we last caught up with him in the aforementioned short, which canonically takes place a while later from these incidents due to how we see him struggle immensely with the burden of his loss and other worldly duties as well. After visiting the graves of what we can only imagine are for his children, Anti instantaneously teleports Chase onto a rooftop in hopes of the fact that he might jump. It's obvious Anti is becoming more frantic, angered by the fact that Chase just still hasn't given up. Finally in the present now, we had not heard from either Chase or Anti at all until this livestream came to be. One of the few things announced was how the egos would be making a return, so you could imagine the support fans would give to that idea. So much so that the first part of the livestream never went below 30,000 concurrent viewers. And once you hear of what else the livestream consisted of, you'll be even more shocked by the number of people present during it. Aside from just being told that the egos would make a surprise reappearance, we'd also seen tiny teasers pop up here and there that promoted the project until launch. The majority of these teasers had to do with Iris itself, the inspiring research of impossible sciences. Through their in-universe Twitter account, we got to have an inside look at this organization and its functions. As it stands, Iris attempts to contain and examine materials or people that possess capabilities not possible for an average Joe to attain. We also got a glimpse at a revolutionary piece of technology known as the Witcher cameras that we later found out are capable of acting as a remote lie detector. After this much build-up, I imagine you all are dying to know what the fuck all this hype is even for. Well, going back to my video on Markiplier, I regarded him as the most creative content creator on YouTube that had used the platform's utilities to make groundbreaking forms of entertainment, all while succeeding in all other departments as well. When I first heard of the Iris project, I hadn't thought much of it originally since I'd foolishly assumed I'd already seen it all thanks to Mark's catalog of various videos. How wrong I was. On to the livestream itself. There are two important aspects to it. One is the interviewed style section that I had already mentioned a bit ago, which is where we catch up with Chase immediately after the events of his short. And the most astonishing part of it all, the rest of the livestream has everything to do with unlocking these parts. You heard me right. We as a viewer were granted the power to change and interact with how the livestream progressed. Through speaking with YouTube directly and arranging a lot of bots on Sean's part, we were greeted by a variety of puzzles to solve. A timer ticked down at the bottom of the screen, thus giving us a deadline to solve them. If unsuccessful, we'd move on to the next puzzle, and the next, and the next. This would repeat until we got the answer to one, which would then transition to the greater story of Chase and Anti as we spectated how things played out. All the while, Sean and his team of developers for the game and puzzles were all observing from the sidelines, feeding us clues and hints when we went too off track. They ensured the entire livestream didn't just crash and everything proceeded as smoothly as it could. What's most extraordinary is how each clip that played represented a day, meaning each time we got to see Chase again, it not only lined up canonically with the events of the story, but it made sense why he appeared more disheveled as he slowly started to grow angrier due to being locked up in the Iris facility. The passing of time was encapsulated perfectly as the puzzles acted as breaks that allowed us to simmer in the events that had just unfolded before us. If you don't find this immersive enough, the puzzles weren't some out-of-the-box moments disconnected from the narrative. No, we got to solve these mysteries from the eyes of the watcher cameras. We got so used to those lenses that when the finale came about after 4 hours, we were pulled out from our comfort by Anti as he made us watch the actions of what we allowed to occur. Yes, as mentioned by Sean in his livestream explaining the whole ordeal, we are the cause for all that happened. If we had never taken part in the solving of all these secrets laid out, Chase would not be in harm's way. We are to blame. And that concept is so beautifully tragic.
So for this, the whole idea of the stream was that you guys were interacting so heavily with it and you were getting so involved with it that you didn't realize that you were like driving things to happen. So by the end of it, we took all control away from you. So there's a reason that at the end we cycled through all the rooms and none of your commands worked anymore. Because now it's supposed to be like a snowball effect. It's like gotten away from you. You were so heavily invested in this thing, like people get with social media and the internet in general, that now consequences can happen to things that you didn't.
It all becomes even more saddening once you realize that the warning signs had been put out long before any of this ever came to be. From the bits of Chase's descent into depression seeded out throughout Sean's videos, to the prelude of the watcher camera's technology and their motto of being all-seeing, all the way to the short I've referenced who knows how many times, that had Anti stalking not Chase, but us. He knew well before us that we'd be the tool that assisted him in getting what he wanted. Well, what is it that he wanted? What is it that was revealed in this livestream? To be honest, not a lot, and that's by design. If you were to compare what we have now to what we were given back then, you'd be just as quick to say that we weren't exposed to many story elements then either. What's funny is that this couldn't be farther from the truth. The point of all this vagueness is not to leave it up to open interpretation. Sean has stated time and time again that he has had the story planned out for a while. He just wants to take his time with developing and exploring all the parts of this fantastical world he's created.
And guys, you have no idea. I have so many ideas for this universe. It's crazy. And I'm like, okay, one step at a time. I'm my own worst enemy because I want to do all of them all at once. And then I'm like, okay, that's the way none of them get done. Or take a really fucking long time to get done. So I'm like, okay, pick your battles.
The foundation of this universe is being laid out piece by piece. There are a lot of things being set up for us in the future to explore, such as who Echo is and what will become of Chase. But that's not to say all of this was worth nothing. Like I've already said, this livestream answered a lot of questions we had, but the best part is that it was still self-contained and entertaining for anyone that isn't a historian in Jacksepticye lore. If we were to focus on just the live action parts alone, we have before us the story of a confused and shaken up man being confined and locked away from the outside world. We see day by day as he is refused any clarity on his whereabouts and how he is treated in an inhumane manner by the Iris staff. The world building of what Iris is and how it presents itself is incredible, using the show don't tell method of exposition to reveal to us who they are and what they're here to accomplish. The end is a brilliantly abrupt turn of events when Anti, after being referred to and foreshadowed as Alter 114209, finally shows up and brings a shitload of chaos with him. Everything goes wrong, and it ends with Anti confronting Chase as the screen cuts to black.
Hello, Chase.
It's perfect. It's the perfect ending, it's the perfect cliffhanger, and it's the perfect reintroduction to these characters. I cannot wait for all that is to come. And I hope it's the same for all of you, since this world really is something fascinating.
I want a fucking movie. I want a TV show. I want a podcast. I want comic books. I want figurines. Like, I'm not dipping my toe in and then being like, that's it, I'm not going to do it again for another 6 years. Like, I'm all in.
If you enjoyed this video, please do like and subscribe, but most importantly, comment. My last video had a lot of you telling me how you felt about the video and also giving me ideas. I loved reading everything that you had to say. It truly meant a lot. And if you have anything you'd like to share now as well, please do. In the meantime though, here are 2 videos that the algorithm thinks that you'd like, so give them a watch. But until next time, this has been Vexidus, and see ya.